Remember, discipline is not about waiting for the right moment or feeling motivated. It's about showing up for yourself, making the hard choices, and taking action even when it's uncomfortable. Every time you follow through, every time you push past excuses, you strengthen your mind, your habits, and your life. The journey to discipline is built one decision at a time, and it starts with the choices you make today. If you take just one thing from this video and apply it immediately, you will see how powerful it feels to take control of your life. Imagine what can happen if you keep practicing these steps every single day. Stay committed and don't let temporary comfort steal your progress. The next video will dive even deeper into building unstoppable habits and mastering your self-control so that discipline becomes effortless. Make sure you don't miss it, because the next step you take could completely change the direction of your life. Keep learning, keep acting, and keep growing. Your future self will thank you. Chapter 1. Choose the harder choice each day to build real discipline. You stand here today because you want to grow. You want to change your life in a real way. You want a level of discipline that becomes unshakable. And the truth is simple. Discipline does not arrive on its own. Discipline is built by choosing the harder choice every single day. Not the quick choice, not the easy choice, not the comfortable choice, the harder choice, the choice that stretches you, the choice that demands responsibility, the choice that asks you to rise above your old self. And if you can do that, your entire life begins to shift. Every person who ever changed their life started in the same place. They had two choices in front of them. One choice made life easy for the moment. The other choice made life stronger for the future, and they picked the harder one, the one that pushed them, the one that made them uncomfortable, the one that required effort when they were tired. That is how real discipline is created. Not from talent, not from luck, not from waiting for motivation. Discipline grows from daily decisions made with honesty and courage. You wake up in the morning and you already face your first test. Do you stay in bed or do you stand up and begin your day with purpose? The easier choice is to stay in bed for a few more minutes. The harder choice is to rise when your mind says you need more rest. But the harder choice builds a stronger foundation for the day. You feel the air on your face. You feel your body waking up. You feel the weight of your goals sitting in your chest. And you know that your day is shaped by what you choose in the first few moments. Every day brings a moment where your mind tries to bargain with you. Your mind says you can do it later. Your mind says nobody will know. Your mind says this one time will not hurt. But the truth is that every small decision builds the person you become. Every harder choice strengthens your discipline like a muscle. Every easier choice weakens it. You feel it inside when you give in. You feel a slight drop in your energy. Your confidence lowers. You feel as if you betrayed your own progress. And you know it. That inner feeling is your guide. And that feeling is the reason why choosing the harder path matters. When you pick the harder choice, you feel your body respond. Your breathing changes. Your posture straightens. You feel a quiet confidence forming inside you. Because you are acting in a way that aligns with your goals. You are taking yourself seriously. You are treating your future with respect. And when you treat your future with respect, your future begins to return the favor. You start finishing tasks. You start feeling more control. You start building trust with yourself. Real trust. Not the kind built from talk but from action. Many people wait for motivation before they act, but motivation is unstable. One day it is strong and the next day it is gone. Discipline does not rely on emotion. Discipline relies on commitment. Commitment shows up whether you feel excited or not. Commitment shows up when nobody is watching. Commitment shows up in the silent parts of life. The early mornings, the late nights, the small moments where you must decide who you are and who you want to become. When you choose the harder choice over and over, that commitment becomes part of your identity. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be honest. When you feel the desire to avoid something important, that is the perfect moment to practice discipline. You can feel your body wanting comfort. You can feel your mind wanting a break. But you also feel the truth inside you. You feel the pull toward the person you wish to be. And that inner pull is your reminder. You are capable of more. You are capable of growth. You are capable of doing the harder thing even when everything inside you looks for the easier path. Choosing the harder choice does not mean choosing pain for no reason. It means choosing the action that supports your future instead of the action that only satisfies you for the moment. It means choosing to clean your space when you want to ignore the mess. It means choosing to finish your work when you want to relax early. It means choosing to speak honestly when avoiding the conversation would feel safer. These small decisions shape your character. They create a sense of pride that cannot be bought. That pride fuels your discipline. More than anything else, each day becomes a training ground. You face moments that test your patience, your focus and your honesty. And when you choose the harder path, your mind changes. You begin to feel a stronger connection to your goals. You no longer feel like your future is far away. You feel it inside your chest. Every time you act with discipline, you feel a deeper sense of control over your life. You feel stronger, not louder, not aggressive, stronger in a calm and grounded way, a way that tells you that you are becoming someone who follows through. Many people search for shortcuts. They want success without effort. They want strength without practice. But shortcuts steal your discipline. Shortcuts remove the chance to grow. When you choose the harder choice, you allow yourself to grow in the dark. You allow yourself to grow when nobody claps for you. Growth without applause builds self-respect. It builds a quiet confidence that stays with you through every part of your life. You will have days when you feel tired. You will have moments where the harder choice feels overwhelming. But those are the days that matter the most. When you feel low and you still choose discipline, you create a new standard for yourself. Your mind learns that you do not quit when the day becomes difficult. You push through, you breathe through it. You stay present. You stay consistent. That consistency is what separates the people who wish for change from the people who create it. Think about the times in your life when you felt proud of yourself. They were never the easy moments. They were the moments when you faced something uncomfortable and you pushed through. That feeling of pride does not arrive by accident. It arrives because you choose the harder path. And with every hard choice you collect more of that pride. You begin to walk different. You begin to think differently. You begin to feel more prepared for life. You start to see that discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. Freedom from regret. Freedom from excuses. Freedom from the past. When you choose the harder choice, you take ownership of your life. Ownership means you stop blaming others. Ownership means you stop waiting for the right time. Ownership means you look at your life and decide to be responsible for the direction you take. Responsibility brings power, real power, the power to change your habits, the power to change your thinking, the power to change the results you produce, and the power to build a life you can be proud of. You deserve a life that reflects your efforts. You deserve progress that makes you feel alive. You deserve goals that turn into reality instead of dreams that fade away. But that life does not appear on its own. That life appears when you choose the harder choice, even when it is inconvenient. Especially when it is inconvenient. That is the moment discipline grows the fastest. You may feel fear when you make the harder choice. That is normal. Fear only means you are growing. You may feel discomfort. That is normal too. Discomfort only means you are leaving old habits behind. Discipline is built from these moments. You are shaping yourself. You are shaping your future. And you are doing it with intention. Every day you get a new chance, a new moment, a new decision, and every decision builds your identity. Choose the harder choice. Choose growth over ease. Choose responsibility over escape. Choose action over delay. And watch how your life begins to rise. Watch how your confidence grows. Watch how your goals feel closer. Watch how you begin to trust yourself in a way you never have before. That is discipline. That is strength. And that is how you begin to change your life for real. Chapter 2. Train your mind to act even when motivation disappears. There comes a point in every person's life where motivation is no longer enough to move them forward. The excitement goes away. The energy that once pushed you fades. The tasks that felt simple begin to feel heavy, and in that moment you face a quiet truth. If you depend on motivation, you will stop every time your feelings shift. If you want real change, you must train your mind to act even when that spark disappears. Discipline grows only when you take action without waiting for the perfect mood. This is where strength is shaped. This is where your future is built. Not in the moments when you feel inspired, but in the moments when you feel nothing yet still keep going. Every person knows what it feels like to lose motivation. You wake up and your body feels heavy. You look at your goals and they seem distant. You feel disconnected from your purpose. You want progress, but you cannot feel any push inside you. This experience is normal. What matters is how you respond. If you stop every time motivation drops, your goals become stuck in that same place. If you act despite having no motivation, your mind starts learning a new pattern. Your mind learns that action does not depend on mood. Your mind learns that you choose the direction, not your feelings. And that shift changes everything about how you approach your life. Most people misunderstand motivation. They think it is something that should always be present. They think that if they lose motivation, something is wrong. But motivation was never designed to stay. It rises and falls just like hunger or energy. It is temporary. It is unpredictable. You cannot build a long-lasting life on something that changes so quickly. You must rely on the one thing that stays with you no matter how you feel. Your decision to act. Your decision to move. Your decision to follow through even when there is no excitement behind it. Training your mind to act without motivation begins with a simple step. You choose one small task you need to complete, and you start it without asking yourself how you feel. Your mind may resist. Your thoughts may complain. You may feel uncomfortable, but you still begin, and when you begin, something interesting happens. Your feelings start to adjust to your actions. Your energy starts to rise because you moved. Your focus becomes clearer because you committed. Action creates the emotional state you were waiting for. That is why emotional waiting destroys progress. You cannot wait for a feeling to save you. You must build the feeling by moving first. Every time you act without motivation, you strengthen a mental pathway. Your brain begins to understand that the job will be done whether you feel like it or not. It no longer argues with you as much. It no longer throws excuses with the same force. Your brain adjusts to your behavior. If your behavior is weak, your mind becomes weak. If your behavior is strong, your mind becomes strong. That is the training. You shape your mind through the actions you choose repeatedly. You do not train your mind through thoughts or wishes. You train it through disciplined movement. There will be moments when you sit quietly and feel no drive inside you. You look at the work in front of you and your mind tries to escape. It looks for something easier, something lighter, something that gives quick relief. But deep down you know that relief does not move your life forward. It only creates more guilt, more disappointment, more pressure. Acting through low motivation breaks this cycle. It gives you relief through progress, not escape. It gives you confidence through action, not avoidance. And that confidence stays with you much longer than any distraction ever will. You must recognize that motivation cannot be trusted. It appears when life feels exciting. It disappears when life becomes ordinary, but ordinary days build extraordinary results. If you stay consistent, most of life is made of ordinary days. Days where nothing dramatic happens. Days where you simply need to show up and do what matters. If you only act on exciting days, your growth will be slow and inconsistent. If you act on ordinary days, your growth becomes steady and powerful. Training your mind to move when you feel nothing is the key to that steady growth. Think about the people you admire, the disciplined ones, the consistent ones, the ones who changed their lives. They are not special because they always felt inspired. They are special because they acted on days when they felt tired, bored or unsure. They acted even when their emotions offered no support. They learned to trust the decision, not the feeling. They learned to trust the responsibility, not the mood. You can do the same. You can train your mind to follow your decision without negotiating with your emotions every day. One of the strongest ways to train your mind is to create non-negotiable actions. These are actions you do no matter how your day feels. You do them when you are tired. You do them when you are tired. You do them when you are stressed. You do them when you lose excitement. These actions become the foundation of your discipline. Your mind begins to understand that these tasks will always get done. This reduces mental resistance. This reduces hesitation. This reduces the emotional grip that holds you back. Non-negotiable actions teach your mind that feelings cannot interrupt your responsibility. Another powerful method is to remove the mental space where excuses grow. When you think too long before starting, you give your mind time to create reasons to delay. The more you think, the more resistance grows. Action must come before overthinking. When your brain starts listing reasons to wait, you must move before those reasons take over. The first seconds of hesitation often decide the entire outcome. When you move quickly, you break the emotional pattern that stops you. You send a message to your brain that you are in control. You will feel uncomfortable in the beginning. That discomfort is part of the training. It shows you are changing your patterns. Every new habit feels strange at first, but discomfort is temporary and discipline is lasting. When you train your mind to act without motivation, the discomfort slowly fades, and a steady confidence rises. A confidence that comes from knowing you can trust yourself at any time. Even on the days when your energy is low, even on the days when your mood is unclear, even on the days when you feel nothing. That kind of self-trust is rare, but powerful. When you learn to act without motivation, you begin to respect yourself on a deeper level. You feel proud of the choices you make. You feel in control of your life. You feel a quiet strength that does not depend on anyone else. This is how real discipline is built. Through consistent action that ignores emotion. Through commitment that does not depend on excitement. Through decisions made with clarity rather than feeling. You will notice changes in small parts of your life first. You finish tasks more often. You avoid delays more easily. You feel less stressed because you know you can keep up with your responsibilities. You start believing in your goals again, because you are behaving in a way that supports them. Over time, these small changes turn into major progress. They create a new identity. The identity of someone who acts when others stop. Someone who follows through when others quit. Someone who moves forward even when their motivation is gone. This ability to act without motivation also strengthens your emotional resilience. You no longer panic when you feel unmotivated. You no longer think something is wrong with you. You recognize that this is a natural part of growth. You continue anyway. You keep going, and this consistent movement creates stability in your life. You begin to trust the process, instead of relying on temporary feelings. Training your mind also involves being honest with yourself. You must recognize when you are using low motivation as an excuse. Many people say they will act when they feel ready. But ready is a feeling that rarely arrives. If you wait for it, your life will always be delayed. Being honest about your habits allows you to correct them. It allows you to take responsibility. It allows you to step into discipline with awareness instead of avoidance. You build this strength day by day. Every action you take without motivation becomes evidence that you can lead yourself. Every small win becomes proof of your discipline. Every completed task becomes another step toward the life you want. You start to feel more connected to your goals. You start to feel more grounded in your choices. You start to feel more capable than you ever believed. A disciplined mind is not built through comfort. It is built through repetition, through action, through daily choices made without waiting for inspiration. Your future depends on how many times you choose action over emotion. You have the ability to train your mind into a powerful tool. You have the ability to act even when nothing inside you feels ready. This is how strong people are built, not through perfect days, but through the days that feel heavy. You are not powerless without motivation. You are only untrained, but you can train yourself. You can teach your mind to move. You can teach your mind to follow your decision instead of your feelings. And once you master this, you become unstoppable. Because motivation may disappear, but your discipline will carry you. Your commitment will carry you. Your actions will carry you. This chapter is about building the strength to move when your emotions fail to support you. It is about shaping a mind that listens to your goals, not your moods. A mind that follows your decisions, not your excuse. And when you train your mind in this way, you create a life where progress continues no matter how you feel. That is the power of discipline. That is the power of taking action without waiting. And that power is already inside you, waiting to be trained. Chapter 3. Cut the small behaviors that silently destroy your self-control. There are habits you notice and habits you ignore. The loud habits are easy to point at. The big mistakes, the obvious distractions, the massive decisions that pull your life in the wrong direction. But the quiet habits are the ones that cause the most damage. The small behaviors you repeat without thinking. The tiny actions that seem harmless. The choices that look too small to matter. These are the ones that silently destroy your self-control. They weaken your discipline without warning. They shape your life without your permission. And unless you learn to remove them, they will keep pulling you away from the person you want to become. Every day, you perform hundreds of small actions. Most of them feel automatic. You check your phone before you even open your eyes fully. You say you will start a task in a few minutes, and then delay it again. You promise to complete something tonight, and move it to tomorrow before the night even begins. You reach for comfort the moment something feels uncomfortable. These small habits appear harmless, but every one of them sends a message to your mind, a message that says it is okay to avoid responsibility. It is okay to delay growth. It is okay to break your own promises. Over time, these messages shape your identity. They turn into patterns that weaken your self-control. Self-control does not collapse in one big moment. It fades slowly. It fades through small decisions that go unnoticed. When you ignore these patterns, they become normal, and once something feels normal, you no longer question it. You begin to think this is just who you are. You start believing you cannot change. But the truth is that your identity is not the problem. Your small behaviors are. And the moment you remove these small behaviors, your mind begins to rebuild its strength. You must start by paying attention to the actions that happen quietly. Notice the moments where you lie to yourself. Notice the moments where you say you will start soon, but never do. Notice the moments where you pretend you are tired when you are not. Notice the moments where you choose comfort when the task in front of you requires effort. These tiny choices chip away at your discipline. They create cracks that grow bigger with time. They weaken your sense of control over your own behavior. One of the most damaging small behaviors is the habit of saying later without any intention of following through. You tell yourself you will clean your space later, you will send the message later, you will study later. Later becomes a shield that hides your unwillingness. But every time you delay something simple, your mind learns that avoiding tasks is acceptable, and once this becomes normal, your self-control starts to fall apart. You lose trust in your own word. You lose confidence in your decisions. You become someone who talks more than they act. Another quiet behavior that destroys self-control is giving yourself easy rewards without earning them. You scroll through your phone before doing the work. You take breaks before you begin. You relax before completing your responsibilities. These actions feel simple, but they weaken your ability to delay gratification. They train your mind to expect comfort first, and when your mind expects comfort first, discipline becomes harder to maintain. Your responsibilities begin to feel heavier because you constantly feed your mind with quick relief. There is also the habit of choosing shortcuts in daily tasks, doing things halfway, leaving items unfinished, stopping the moment something feels slightly hard. These shortcuts train your mind to avoid following through. And when you avoid following through, you weaken the part of your brain responsible for discipline. Every time you stop early, you reinforce the belief that effort is optional. You may not see the damage immediately, but it slowly builds. It creates a mindset where quitting becomes easier each time. You must also pay attention to the behavior of distracting yourself. The moment something requires focus, you pick up your phone without thinking. You jump from one task to another. You allow your mind to escape whenever life demands concentration. This habit teaches your brain that discomfort is a signal to run. And when your brain learns to run, your self-control weakens. You become easily overwhelmed. Small tasks begin to feel impossible. Your ability to stay committed decreases. The simple act of avoiding focus becomes a chain that pulls your potential down. Another silent behavior that damages self-control is tolerating environments that drain you. A messy room, an unorganized desk, constant noise, people who distract you. These things seem small, but they shape your mental state. A cluttered environment makes your mind scattered. A noisy environment makes your focus unstable. A distracting environment makes your discipline harder to maintain. People often underestimate the impact of their surroundings, but your environment influences your behavior more than you realize. There is also the small behavior of ignoring your personal standards. You tell yourself you will sleep at a certain time, then go to bed much later. You tell yourself you will keep your space clean, then let things pile up. You tell yourself you will stop complaining, then continue doing it. These small breaks in your standards send a message to your mind that your rules do not matter. And if your rules do not matter, it becomes harder to control your actions. Self-control thrives when your standards are clear and respected. It weakens when your standards are optional. Another quiet behavior that destroys self-control is comparing yourself to people who seem to have an easier life. You look at how quickly they progress and you feel discouraged. You tell yourself you are behind. You lower your standards because you think someone else had an easier path. This behavior drains your discipline. It removes your focus. It weakens your drive. Self-control requires presence and ownership. When you spend your time comparing, you lose both. You must also address the behavior of giving up small commitments. If you say you will drink more water, then forget. If you say you will walk each day, then skip. If you say you will read a page, then stop after one day. These small broken commitments pile up in your mind. You begin to feel unreliable. You stop believing in your ability to follow through. And once that belief fades, your discipline collapses. Self-control is built on the trust you have in yourself. Every small promise you keep strengthens that trust. Every promise you break weakens it. One of the most destructive silent behaviors is ignoring your inner voice when it tells you the truth. You feel you should get back to work, but you ignore it. You feel you should eat better, but you avoid it. You feel you should be more present, but you distract yourself. Every time you ignore that inner voice, your discipline weakens. That voice is your guide. It knows what you must do. When you silence it long enough, you stop hearing it clearly. You must learn to listen. You must learn to respond. You must learn to take that voice seriously. If you want strong self-control, you must remove these quiet habits one by one. You do not need to change everything at once. You need awareness and responsibility. Begin by identifying the small actions that pull you down. Notice your patterns. Notice your excuses. Notice the moments when you choose convenience over commitment. Bring these habits into the light. Once you see them clearly, you gain the power to change them. When you cut these silent behaviors, you begin to feel lighter. Your mind becomes clearer. Your focus improves. You begin to feel more in control of yourself. You feel more connected to your goals. You start to act with intention rather than impulse. You build a sense of personal strength that cannot be taken away. You become the kind of person who does not crumble under pressure. Your discipline becomes stable. Your confidence grows naturally, because it is built on real change, not false hope. Small behaviors shape your life more than big decisions. They shape your patterns. They shape your identity. They shape how much you trust yourself. And when these small behaviors are removed, your discipline has room to grow. You no longer fight with yourself. You no longer feel trapped by your emotions. You regain the power to choose your direction. And that power changes everything about the way you live. You deserve a life where your actions support your goals. You deserve a mind that works with you, not against you. You deserve to feel in control of your choices. And you can have that life when you begin removing the small behaviors that quietly destroy your self-control. These behaviors may seem simple, but the impact is deep. And once they are gone, your discipline becomes stronger than you ever imagined. Chapter 4. Build discipline by showing up the moment resistance appears. When resistance shows up, most people treat it like a warning sign telling them to stop. They feel that tiny pull of hesitation and immediately step back, thinking something is wrong with them, thinking they should wait until the feeling disappears. But discipline is built in the exact opposite moment. It's built in the split second when your mind whispers, "Not now," and you decide to move anyway. That single moment, the very first second when discomfort appears, is where your future is shaped. Not tomorrow, not after you feel better, not when motivation returns. It happens right at the doorway of resistance, and how you respond to that doorway determines the kind of person you become. Most people underestimate how quickly resistance grows. It doesn't arrive like a storm. It starts like a tiny shadow. You think, "I'll start in 5 minutes." And those 5 minutes quietly turn into an hour, and that hour turns into tomorrow. Resistance feeds on delay. It feeds on negotiation. The longer you allow yourself to think, the stronger it becomes. That's why showing up immediately, before your mind has time to talk you out of it, is one of the strongest forms of discipline a person can develop. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel inspired. You just need to show up the moment that first internal pushback hits you. If you pay attention to your daily patterns, you'll notice something interesting. The hardest part is always the first step, not the work itself. Waking up early isn't difficult. Getting out of the bed is. Going to the gym isn't difficult. Putting on the shoes and stepping out of the door is. Studying or working isn't difficult. Opening the laptop and starting that first minute is. Your mind is excellent at building walls right before you begin. But once you start, those walls collapse surprisingly fast. It's almost embarrassing how much time we lose resisting the start instead of doing the task. Building discipline requires understanding this psychological trick. Resistance is loud only at the entrance. It yells, it complains, it gives excuses, but once you cross that threshold, it becomes quiet. This is why disciplined people seem almost superhuman. They don't wait to feel like moving. They have trained their mind to take action while their brain is still throwing excuses at them. They don't give their hesitation space to grow roots. They interrupt it immediately. At the beginning, showing up instantly will feel unnatural. Your mind is used to running the old script. I'll do it in a bit, let me relax first. I'm not in the right mood. You've repeated these sentences for years, so of course your brain will try to recycle them. But discipline isn't about eliminating these thoughts, it's about refusing to obey them. Those thoughts might still rise, but your actions rise faster. You can feel the hesitation and still act. You can hear the excuses and still move. You can feel resistance in your body and still choose motion. One powerful shift happens when you stop expecting resistance to go away. Many people think they fail because they experience reluctance, but every disciplined person on the planet feels it too. The difference is not in feeling, it's in response. Stop waiting for a day when you won't feel lazy. Stop waiting for a morning when fear disappears. Stop waiting for motivation to show up before you do. It's not coming. What you're waiting for is actually generated by action itself. The energy, the momentum, the clarity, the confidence, these things appear after you start, not before. The moment resistance appears, imagine it as your cue to begin. Treat it like a signal that you're stepping into growth. That discomfort isn't a stop sign, it's the doorway to becoming the person you want to be. If you delay, resistance wins. If you show up immediately, you win. It's that simple. In the beginning, you may need to force yourself. You may need to stand up, count down from 3, and move before your mind catches up. Over time, your brain learns. When resistance appears, this person moves. And soon the hesitation weakens because it realizes you're not negotiating anymore. Showing up quickly also teaches your mind that your decisions matter more than your feelings. Most people let feelings run their life. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel lazy, they quit. If they feel distracted, they delay. But you cannot build a strong life using weak rules like these. If your emotions decide your actions, your future becomes unstable. Some days you'll make progress, other days you'll fall backward. Discipline is the opposite. You decide the action, then your feelings adapt. And surprisingly, feelings adapt faster than you think. You might begin with 0 motivation, but 5 minutes into the work, your mind shifts gears and starts supporting you instead of resisting you. You just need to win the opening battle. Another important thing to understand is that resistance usually shows up strongest when the activity is meaningful. You rarely feel resistance scrolling on your phone or wasting time because there's no growth in those activities. But the moment something can change you, reading, learning, exercising, building something challenging, your brain tries to protect you from discomfort. That resistance is actually proof that the action is important. Instead of running from it, treat it as a compass. If something scares you or makes you hesitate, that's often exactly what you should be doing. There is also a deeper psychological layer to this. Resistance thrives in the gap between intention and action. When you think about doing something but don't act immediately, your mind starts filling the gap with doubts. It imagines the worst parts, exaggerates the effort, highlights the discomfort, and convinces you that waiting is safer. The longer that gap stays open, the heavier resistance becomes. This is why acting instantly is such a powerful strategy. It gives your mind no room to build fear. You close the gap before it expands. You don't need to adopt a heroic mindset. You don't need to shout affirmations or hype yourself up. All you need is a simple rule. Move the moment resistance appears. Not after analyzing it, not after thinking about how you feel, not after planning for the perfect conditions. Just move. It can be a small move. If you're too tired for a full workout, just change into your workout clothes. If writing feels overwhelming, just open the page and type one sentence. If cleaning feels heavy, just pick up one object. These micro starts pull you into momentum, and once momentum begins, resistance loses its strength. And don't underestimate how much self-respect grows when you show up at the exact moment you feel like running away. That's the moment you prove to yourself that you are stronger than your excuses. That's the moment you build trust with your future self. Every time you act quickly, you are shaping your identity. You're teaching your mind, I follow through. I don't avoid discomfort. I show up. And identity is powerful. Once you see yourself as someone who acts despite resistance, you begin living that way automatically. It's also important to separate resistance from danger. Your mind often confuses the two. Resistance is not a threat. It's not your body warning you about harm. It's simply your brain trying to maintain the familiar. But familiar and good for you are not the same. Many unhealthy habits feel familiar. Many self-destructive patterns feel comfortable. Resistance tries to keep you inside those patterns. Discipline pulls you out. You cannot let your brain mistake comfort for safety and growth for danger. Every time you show up when resistance tries to hold you back, you break that illusion. If you pay attention to your life, you'll realize that most breakthroughs happened right after you pushed through a moment of resistance. You met someone new, started a good habit, finished a difficult task, learned a new skill, or discovered a strength you didn't know you had, all because you acted when your mind told you to wait. Imagine how many opportunities people lose simply because they wait too long. Imagine how many dreams fade quietly because resistance won tiny battles day after day. You don't need to live like that. You can build a new pattern. You can train your mind to understand that resistance isn't a barrier, it's an invitation. Every time you face it, you grow. Every time you step through it, you become a stronger and more disciplined version of yourself. And that version of you doesn't rely on motivation. That version of you doesn't negotiate with excuses. That version of you doesn't wait for perfect time. That version of you shows up the moment resistance appears, and because of that simple habit, progress becomes inevitable. If you can master this one principle, acting quickly when your mind pulls back, you will notice your entire life shifting. Your goals stop feeling distant. Your habits start sticking. Your confidence grows without you forcing it. You begin trusting yourself deeply because you no longer abandon your plans at the first sign of discomfort. You become someone who moves with purpose, not someone who waits for ideal emotion. That's the power of building discipline. At the exact moment resistance appears, it's not just about getting things done. It's about becoming the kind of person who does what needs to be done. No excuses, no delays, no negotiation, just presence, action and growth. Chapter 5. Force progress by removing every easy escape from responsibility. Most people don't lack potential. They don't even lack desire. What they truly lack is the courage to cut off the easy exits that allow them to escape responsibility whenever life gets uncomfortable. Every dream that dies doesn't die because the person was incapable. It dies because the door to avoid the work was left wide open. You cannot build a strong mind while keeping a soft escape route. The mind always takes the shortcut if you leave it on the table, and once you understand this, you realize that progress isn't just about adding habits, it's about removing the pathways that lead you back to the old you. Responsibility is heavy, and your brain instinctively searches for the lightest path. That's natural. The problem is that the easiest path rarely leads anywhere meaningful. When something challenges you, your mind immediately scans for alternatives, for distractions, for emotional loopholes that let you say, "I'll do it later," or "It's not that important," or "I don't feel ready today." These little exits seem harmless, but they quietly shape your entire life. They teach you that commitment is negotiable. They teach you that discipline can be delayed. They teach you that you don't have to show up when you don't feel like it. And the more you use these exits, the weaker your ability to take responsibility becomes. If you want to force progress, you must close the doors that lead you away from the life you're trying to build. You must remove the soft places your mind hides when things become demanding. That doesn't mean punishing yourself. It means creating an environment where following through becomes easier than escaping. Humans thrive when the path is clear and the options are limited. When you reduce the number of choices, your discipline becomes more direct, more automatic. It's not about being strict, it's about being intentional. One of the most powerful things you can do is make your responsibility unavoidable. If you want to wake up early, don't rely on willpower. Put your alarm far away from the bed so you cannot reach it without standing up. If you want to write, remove every tab on your browser that tempts you to scroll. If you want to exercise, lay out your clothes the night before so you're forced to confront your goal first thing in the morning. These small adjustments may seem trivial, but they reshape your behavior by removing friction from the right places and adding friction to the wrong ones. The problem is that most people live with countless psychological escape routes, subtle ones they don't even notice. They say yes to distractions because it's easier than setting boundaries. They procrastinate because no one is there to hold them accountable. They make excuses because excuses offer temporary relief from responsibility. But the comfort these escapes give is always followed by a quiet guilt that grows heavier with time. Deep down, you know when you're avoiding your own potential. You feel a small sting every time you take the easy route. You feel it when you say you'll start tomorrow. You feel it when you know exactly what you should do, but allow yourself to slip back into habits that don't serve you. To force progress, you have to remove the emotional padding that protects your excuses. You have to decide that your standards matter more than your comfort. When you eliminate the easy way out, your mind stops negotiating because it realizes there is no debate. This is just what we do now. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Your mind actually gets stronger because it no longer wastes energy deciding between commitment and avoidance. Your direction becomes fixed, and progress becomes a byproduct of your environment and your identity, not just your ambition. Another key part of removing easy escapes is being brutally honest with yourself. Every time you fall short, there is a reason, and the reason is usually tied to something you're unwilling to face. Maybe you avoid your goals because you fear failure. Maybe you stay distracted because you're afraid of confronting your potential. Maybe you stay busy with meaningless tasks because real progress forces you to deal with discomfort. These truths are not pleasant, but they are necessary. You cannot overcome what you refuse to acknowledge. Responsibility requires honesty, and honesty requires courage. The truth is that the easiest escape from responsibility is self-deception. Telling yourself you're working when you're just pretending. Convincing yourself that you're tired when you've barely tried. Promising yourself that you'll make up for it later when you know you won't. These silent lies weaken your self-respect. Every time you choose an escape, you confirm the belief that you aren't capable of staying consistent, and that belief slowly eats away at your confidence. The opposite is also true. Every time you refuse an escape, even once, you reinforce a new identity. You prove to yourself that you are capable of staying with discomfort. You show yourself that you can push through thoughts that try to pull you backward. One decision strengthens the next. One act of responsibility opens the door to another. Progress compounds the same way failure does, through small choices repeated daily. Your environment plays a massive role in this. You cannot expect progress while surrounding yourself with temptations that drag you down. You cannot build discipline in a space that constantly gives you the option to break it. If your room, your phone, your schedule and your habits give you exits, you will take them. You have to design your surroundings in a way that pushes you toward responsibility instead of away from it. This might mean limiting your screen time, removing apps you scroll mindlessly, changing your social circle, or restructuring your routine so that your goals become non-negotiable. Discipline thrives in clarity and dies in chaos. Removing escapes also means accepting that you cannot save energy for a moment that will magically feel easier. It never comes. Waiting for the perfect time is one of the biggest escapes disguised as logic. People convince themselves that they just need a little more rest, a better mood, or a clearer plan, and then they will start. But all they're doing is creating a polished version of procrastination. No one becomes disciplined by waiting. No one becomes great by choosing comfort. You grow when you remove the alternative. There is a powerful shift that happens when you commit fully, when you remove every option that lets you slip backward. Suddenly, your mind becomes sharper because it knows exactly what it must do. You don't waste energy debating with yourself. You don't burn time thinking about whether you should start. You don't live in the exhausting loop of planning without executing. You simply move. And every time you move, you reinforce the belief that you can rely on yourself. That belief is what creates unstoppable momentum. This is why people who burn their bridges often succeed. They leave themselves no way to retreat. They put themselves in situations where progress isn't just preferred, it's required. When escape is no longer available, effort becomes natural. When there's no backup plan, you use the power you forgot you had. When retreat is impossible, you discover that you were capable all along. Responsibility becomes easier when you stop giving yourself the option to avoid it. You may think you need more motivation, more clarity, more confidence, but most of the time, what you really need is fewer escapes. You need fewer maybe later moments. You need fewer empty justifications. You need fewer soft places to hide from your own potential. Progress doesn't require perfection. It requires commitment, and commitment becomes stronger as you eliminate the paths that pull you away from your goals. The fewer exits your mind has, the more fiercely it moves forward. When you make the responsible choice the only choice, your life begins to change at a speed that surprises you. It's not about becoming a different person overnight. It's about shaping your environment, your habits, and your mindset so tightly that avoiding responsibility becomes harder than embracing. When you live like this, progress becomes the natural direction of your life, not something you force yourself to do. You become someone who moves without hesitation, someone who doesn't run from challenges, someone who doesn't sabotage themselves by choosing comfort over growth. And in that mindset, success stops being a distant dream. It becomes an inevitable outcome. This is the power of removing every easy escape from responsibility. It forces progress because it removes the option to stay the same. It leaves you with one direction forward, and once forward becomes your default, nothing can hold you back. Chapter 6. Strengthen discipline by finishing tasks you usually postpone. Most people don't lose control of their lives because they face big obstacles. They lose control because they keep postponing the small tasks that quietly shape their future. The undone work sits in the back of the mind like a weight that grows heavier each day. You can feel it when you wake up. You can feel it when you try to focus. You can feel it when you lie down at night thinking about everything you could have finished but didn't. Every postponed task steals a little bit of your confidence. It tells you that you can ignore responsibility without consequences. And every time you repeat that pattern, you lose a piece of your discipline. Finishing the tasks you usually postpone is one of the strongest ways to build personal power because it forces you to confront the things your mind tries to avoid. Those tasks are not random. They are the exact areas where you need growth the most. When you delay them, you're not avoiding work, you're avoiding growth. And every time you avoid growth, you reinforce weakness. The mind gets used to the pattern. It learns that you will give in if it resists just a little. It learns that you can be pushed around by a feeling. It learns that discomfort has more authority in your life than your goals. That's why unfinished tasks have so much psychological weight. They are proof of who is running your life. To strengthen discipline, you have to reverse that pattern. You have to become the kind of person who finishes the tasks you once avoided. Nothing changes your identity faster than doing the things you've been running from. When you complete something you used to delay, you reclaim a part of yourself. You show your mind that you are the one giving the commands. You show your emotions that they don't decide your direction. You show your future self that you can be trusted. Trust in yourself is not built through perfect days or big achievements. It is built through small promises honored daily, and most of those promises come from the tasks you normally push aside. The truth is, those tasks are rarely big. They are usually simple but uncomfortable. Calling someone back, cleaning your room, paying a bill, organizing your schedule, fixing something you've been ignoring, starting a project you've been thinking about for months, writing a page, reading a chapter, exercising for a few minutes. These things don't look life-changing on the surface, but they carry emotional importance. You postpone them not because they're hard physically, but because they're hard mentally. They force you to act when you would rather escape. They force you to take responsibility when you want relief. That's why they are the perfect training ground for discipline. When you push these tasks aside, your mind gets temporary comfort. When you complete them, your mind gets long-term strength. The difference is huge. Comfort gives you a few minutes of peace but creates hours of stress later. Finishing the task gives you a few minutes of effort but creates a sense of control that lasts all day. People often say they want discipline, but they don't use the daily opportunities that build it. They wait for inspiration. They wait for a better mood. They wait for circumstances to make it easier. But discipline doesn't grow in ideal conditions. It grows in uncomfortable moments when you refuse to postpone what matters. One of the most powerful ways to practice this is to start with the task you least want to do. Every day there is something your mind tries to push away. There is something that creates a little tension. That thing is the key to your growth. When you choose to start with it, you silence the resistance that weakens you. You send a message to your mind. We do not avoid what needs to be done. The moment you finish that task, you feel a shift inside you. Your energy rises. Your thoughts become clearer. You gain momentum for the rest of the day. Because the hardest part is already behind you. People underestimate the emotional relief that comes from finishing what they usually postpone. You carry a lot of hidden stress caused by things left undone. Your mind keeps returning to them, even when you're trying to relax. You feel guilty for not handling them. You feel frustrated with yourself. You feel behind even if the task is small. And because of that emotional weight, you have less space for creativity, clarity, and peace. When you complete those tasks, you release that weight. You free up mental space. You feel lighter. You feel more alive. And that feeling reinforces your desire to stay disciplined. To strengthen discipline, you also have to stop negotiating with yourself. The moment you allow debate, you lose. The moment you start thinking about whether you feel ready, the task gets postponed again. If you want discipline, you must act before your mind opens the door to excuses. When a task comes to your attention, treat it as a command, not a suggestion. The more you practice this, the more automatic it becomes. Your mind learns to respond with action instead of hesitation. You reduce the emotional noise that normally pulls you away from your responsibility. Another helpful approach is to give tasks a specific time instead of leaving them floating in your mind. When you say you will do something later, it almost guarantees postponement. When you say you will do it at 2 p.m. or right after breakfast, you remove uncertainty. Uncertainty is one of the biggest triggers for delay. Clear decisions remove the option to drift. But even with a set time, you must protect the choice. You cannot allow anyone or anything to push it aside. Your discipline grows every time you stand up for your own priority. Finishing postponed tasks also requires you to build a healthier relationship with discomfort. Many people avoid tasks because they don't like the feeling that comes with starting. The pressure, the tension, the fear of messing up, the worry that they won't do it perfectly. But you don't need to be perfect. You just need to start. Once you begin, the discomfort usually fades quickly. The mind makes problems look bigger than they are. When you take action, the problem becomes smaller than the fear. Every time you push through that initial discomfort, you strengthen your emotional resilience. Another powerful skill is breaking large tasks into small steps. People avoid tasks not because they're impossible, but because they look overwhelming. The solution is to lower the entry point. If you cannot finish the whole project today, finish one section. If you cannot read the entire book, read 5 pages. If you cannot clean everything, clean one area. Small action builds momentum. Momentum makes the next step easier. And once momentum is created, your mind starts working with you instead of against you. You feel more capable because you are proving to yourself that you can move even when you don't feel like it. Reflection also plays a major role. At the end of the day, ask yourself which tasks you finished despite wanting to postpone them. Celebrate those moments. They are evidence of growth. Then ask yourself which tasks you avoided and why. Don't judge yourself. Just be honest. The reason you avoided them will reveal exactly where you need to build more discipline. Awareness is essential. You can't fix what you refuse to look at. But once you see your weak points clearly, you can strengthen them, step by step. Finishing postponed tasks shapes your identity. Every completed task tells your mind that you are responsible, that you do what you say you will do, that you can rely on yourself. This creates a deeper level of self-respect, and self-respect is the foundation of discipline. When you respect yourself, you don't run from your responsibility. You don't delay what matters. You don't allow comfort to control your choices. You act because you want your actions to match the person you are becoming. There will always be days when you don't feel like doing the things you need to do. That's normal. Discipline isn't about feeling amazing every day. It's about recognizing that feelings don't decide your actions. When you push through those moments, you cut the habit of postponing. You prove that effort can exist without perfect motivation. And once you understand this, your life changes dramatically. You stop being a prisoner of your moods. You stop letting fatigue control your day. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You start moving, and your movement creates progress. Strength comes from consistency, and consistency comes from doing the tasks that your past self avoided. If you commit to finishing those tasks, your life will shift. Your confidence will rise. Your focus will sharpen. Your direction will become clearer. You will start to feel control over your days instead of drifting through them. You will discover that discipline isn't something mysterious. It's simply the habit of doing what you once postponed. If you want a different life, you cannot keep delaying the things that move you forward. Every postponed task is a small step backward. Every completed task is a step forward. And those steps add up. They shape your character. They shape your future. They shape your destiny. When you finish the tasks you usually postpone, you take ownership of your life in a way that few people ever do. And in that ownership you discover a power that stays with you for the rest of your life. Chapter 7. Create discipline by keeping promises you make to yourself. Every person you admire for their discipline has one habit in common. They keep the promises they make to themselves. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it is the foundation of every achievement, every act of growth, every moment of personal strength. The promises you make to yourself are the agreements between who you are today and who you want to become. When you break them, even once, you teach your mind that commitment is negotiable. You teach your emotions that convenience matters more than growth. And over time, these broken promises quietly erode your confidence, your willpower, and your sense of control over your own life. Most people don't even realize how often they break promises to themselves. They say they'll wake up early, but hit snooze. They say they'll exercise, but skip it. They say they'll read or learn, but find a distraction instead. They tell themselves tomorrow will be different, but tomorrow follows the same pattern. Each broken promise builds a subtle distrust between you and yourself. And once that trust is broken, discipline becomes almost impossible because your mind and emotions no longer believe in your word. Keeping promises to yourself is more than a mental exercise. It's a way of showing respect to your own growth. Every time you follow through, even in small ways, you are signaling to your subconscious that you are serious about your commitments. You are reinforcing the idea that your actions match your intentions, and that reinforcement compounds over time. Small victories become habits. Habits become identity. Identity becomes unstoppable momentum. But this only works when you honor the agreements you make with yourself, without exception. The first step in creating this habit is awareness. You must consciously notice the promises you make to yourself throughout the day. Most of them are unspoken and internal. You say to yourself, "I'll finish this task later," or "I'll take better care of myself," or "I'll start tomorrow." These are promises in disguise. They carry the same weight as spoken commitments if you treat them seriously. Your mind recognizes the difference between what you say you will do and what you actually do, and your self-discipline grows or shrinks depending on the consistency of your actions. It is important to start small. Don't overwhelm yourself with huge commitments that are likely to fail. Begin with promises that are simple but significant. Promise yourself to drink water in the morning. Promise yourself to take a walk. Promise yourself to read a page of a book. Promise yourself to complete a minor task you've been avoiding. These small actions are easy to start, but difficult to ignore. When you honor these promises consistently, you strengthen your trust in yourself. You prove to your mind and emotions that you can be relied upon, and that proof is the cornerstone of discipline. Next, make your promises specific and clear. Vague promises are easy to break. Saying "I'll work out more" leaves too much room for negotiation. Saying "I'll walk for 20 minutes after lunch every day" creates a precise expectation that your mind cannot misinterpret. The clearer the promise, the harder it is to avoid. Clarity removes the loopholes your mind uses to escape responsibility. It also creates a benchmark for measuring your progress. Discipline thrives in structure and clarity, not in ambiguity or wishful thinking. Accountability is another key factor. Even if the promise is to yourself, external reinforcement helps. Tell someone you trust about your commitment. Write it down. Keep a journal where you track your follow-through. When you have a record, you cannot deny your progress or your mistakes. Accountability adds weight to your promise and reduces the chance of breaking it. The act of documenting or sharing your commitment makes the promise tangible, and tangible promises are much easier to honor consistently. You also need to treat failure carefully. You will not keep every promise perfectly at first. That is normal. The goal is not perfection, it is consistency. If you break a promise, analyze why it happened, learn from it, and renew your commitment immediately. Do not allow one slip to snowball into a habit of broken promises. Each time you repair a broken promise quickly, you demonstrate resilience and reinforce discipline. Over time, your mind learns that keeping your word matters more than temporary comfort or excuses. Another crucial point is understanding the psychological impact of promise keeping. When you honor your commitments, your brain releases chemicals that increase focus, energy and motivation. You literally feel stronger and more capable. The more you practice this, the more your brain associates action with reward, not with fear or resistance. Over time, keeping promises becomes a source of pleasure, not a chore. This is the feedback loop that transforms small actions into a disciplined lifestyle. Creating discipline through promise keeping also strengthens emotional control. Most of the time, broken promises are tied to fleeting emotions, laziness, fatigue, frustration, boredom, or anxiety. When you honor your promises regardless of how you feel, you teach your emotions that they are observers, not commanders. You train your mind to act based on reasoned commitment, not on temporary state. Emotional control and self-discipline are inseparable, and keeping promises builds both simultaneously. The consistency of promise keeping begins to shape your identity. Every action you take in alignment with your word answers the question, who am I? Are you someone who follows through? Are you someone who respects yourself? Are you someone who overcomes temptation and prioritizes growth? Your identity is not an abstract concept. It is built through repeated action. Every promise you keep reinforces the narrative that you are reliable, strong, and disciplined. And identity drives behavior in a way that temporary motivation never can. Another step is to anticipate challenges in advance. When you make a promise to yourself, consider the situations where breaking it is likely. Identify your temptations and plan how to respond before they appear. If you know you'll feel tired or distracted, prepare strategies to stay on track. By proactively removing obstacles to your commitments, you reduce the mental friction that leads to failure. Discipline is not only about resisting temptation, it is about setting up your environment and mindset so temptation has less power. Tracking progress is vital. Keep a record of promises made and kept. Celebrate streaks and milestones. Every completed promise is proof that you can rely on yourself. When you see tangible evidence of your consistency, it strengthens your belief in your ability to remain disciplined. Conversely, it also highlights areas that need improvement, giving you a clear path for refinement. Discipline grows fastest when it is measured and reinforced. Promise keeping also extends to long-term goals. Your daily commitments, no matter how small, form the foundation for larger achievements. Every chapter read, every task completed, every habit maintained adds up. Each action builds trust with your future self. You begin to anticipate that the next promise will be kept because your track record supports it. Over time, this creates momentum that makes consistency easier, and discipline compounds, just like wealth. When small, consistent actions are stacked daily, it is important to recognize that this habit also teaches patience and delayed gratification. Many promises are not immediately rewarding. Reading a page of a book today may not show instant results. Exercising for 20 minutes may not transform your body overnight. But by honoring these promises, you reinforce the principle that growth is achieved through sustained effort, not instant pleasure. Discipline becomes a natural byproduct of valuing long-term gain over immediate comfort. Moreover, keeping promises to yourself builds inner confidence. You stop questioning your ability to follow through. You stop doubting your intentions. You begin to trust your judgment and your capability to handle challenges. That trust spills over into other areas of life, relationships, work, health, finances, because the foundation of trust is internal. When you can rely on yourself, external circumstances feel less overwhelming, and decisions become clearer and more decisive. The power of this practice also lies in simplicity. It does not require elaborate systems or complicated routines. It requires awareness, intention, and follow-through. If you can do this consistently, everything else falls into place. Motivation is no longer necessary because you have trained your mind to act based on principle, not desire. Resistance loses its influence because your commitment is stronger than your excuses. And over time, you find that your self-discipline becomes effortless because it is no longer about willpower, it is about identity. Finally, every promise you keep strengthens your life because it creates alignment between your actions and your aspiration. When you honor your word, you remove the internal friction that normally slows progress. You live with clarity, integrity, and purpose. Your energy is directed toward growth, not reconciliation with guilt or regret. The more consistently you honor your commitments to yourself, the more your life reflects the person you are determined to become. And once that alignment exists, nothing can derail your progress. Discipline becomes natural, habits become automatic, and your potential becomes inevitable. Keeping promises to yourself is the cornerstone of building real discipline. It is a simple practice with profound consequences. Every time you honor a commitment, you are taking a step closer to mastery over your life. You are proving that you are trustworthy, capable, and resilient. And over time, those steps accumulate, transforming not just your actions, but your identity, your confidence, and the trajectory of your life. If you want discipline that lasts, start by honoring the promises you make to yourself, without exception. Every act of follow-through is a building block for the strongest version of you.
Chapter 8. Grow stronger by challenging the thoughts that hold you back. The mind is constantly running conversations in the background. Most of them go unnoticed, but they have tremendous power over your life. Thoughts appear quietly at first, subtle doubts that make you hesitate, question, or avoid action. They whisper, "You're not ready," or "It's too hard," or "Maybe tomorrow." If left unchecked, these thoughts grow into invisible barriers that prevent you from reaching your potential. They don't just delay progress, they shape your identity. You start believing them. You start acting in alignment with them. And slowly, without realizing it, your life becomes a reflection of the thoughts you didn't challenge. Challenging these thoughts is the cornerstone of building real strength. Every time a limiting thought arises, you have a choice. You can accept it and let it control you, or you can confront it and test its validity. The key is not to argue endlessly in your head. The key is to examine it, question it, and then act in opposition to it. If your thought says, "You cannot finish this task," respond by completing a small portion immediately. If it says, "You're not capable," respond by taking one action that proves otherwise. Action is the only way to confirm or deny a thought's power. Many people fail to challenge their limiting thoughts because it requires awareness. You have to notice them first. Thoughts are often disguised as feelings, habits, or urges. You feel fear, hesitation, or anxiety, and you accept it as a valid reason to delay. But fear is not truth. It is information. Discomfort is not failure. It is a signal that growth is happening. By learning to identify which thoughts are holding you back, you gain the first tool for overcoming them. Awareness is the flashlight that reveals the invisible obstacles in your mind. The second step is analysis. Ask yourself, is this thought based on evidence or assumption? Is it a fact or just a story I am telling myself? Many limiting thoughts are opinions disguised as facts. "I will fail" is not a guarantee, it's a possibility framed as certainty. "I am not good enough" is not reality. It is an interpretation often formed in the past that doesn't reflect your present capability. When you analyze your thoughts logically, you reduce their control over you. You start seeing them as optional rather than absolute, which is empowering. Challenging thoughts also requires emotional courage. Many thoughts hold power because they trigger fear, shame, or doubt. You resist acting because your brain interprets potential discomfort as danger. But your mind is not always correct. Just because something feels scary does not mean it will harm you. In fact,
the things that feel hardest to start often produce the greatest growth. When you take action despite fear, you weaken its hold over you. Your emotions begin to align with your purpose rather than dominate it. A practical way to challenge thoughts is through evidence-based action. Pick a thought that limits you and immediately do something to test it. If your thought says, "I can't run 3 miles, put on your shoes and run 1. If your thought says, "I'm not creative enough," write 1 paragraph, sketch 1 idea or record 1 note. By confronting thoughts with real-world action, you disprove their absolute authority over your behavior. Action converts abstract doubt into concrete understanding. Another method is reframing. When a limiting thought appears, restate it in a constructive way. If your thought says, "This is too difficult," reframe it as, "This is challenging, and challenges make me stronger." If it says, "I will fail," reframe it, "Failure is feedback that guides me forward." Reframing doesn't remove the thought immediately, but it reduces its emotional grip. It helps you approach action without being paralyzed by the weight of negativity. Limiting thoughts are often repetitive. They appear daily because the mind has formed habitual patterns. This is why daily practice is essential. Every time you challenge a thought, you weaken the neural pathway that gives it power. Every repetition builds a new pathway that favors courage, action, and confidence. Over time, challenging thoughts becomes automatic. You no longer need to spend hours convincing yourself. You simply notice the thought, question it, and act anyway. Your brain gradually rewires itself toward possibility and growth. It is also important to understand the role of self-compassion. Challenging thoughts doesn't mean attacking yourself for having them. Everyone has doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs. The difference is what you do with them. When a thought appears, observe it without judgment, acknowledge it, and then choose action. This approach prevents discouragement from taking root and ensures that discipline grows alongside emotional stability. Self-compassion allows you to confront difficult thoughts consistently without creating internal resistance. Some thoughts persist because they are tied to identity. You tell yourself, "I am not the kind of person who can achieve this," or "I am too old, too inexperienced, too slow." These identity-based thoughts are the hardest to challenge because they feel permanent. But identity is shaped by action, not by thought alone. Each time you act in contradiction to a limiting identity thought, you rewrite your sense of self. If you think, "I cannot wake up early," but you get up at 5 every morning for a week, your identity begins to shift. The mind learns that reality is built by action, not by old self-perceptions. Visualization also strengthens the ability to challenge thought. Imagine completing the task or facing the fear while maintaining focus and composure. Picture yourself acting despite doubt. This mental rehearsal prepares your brain for action and reduces the power of fear and hesitation. Visualization is not a replacement for action, but it primes the mind so that the first step feels achievable, not overwhelming. Accountability magnifies the effect of challenging thoughts. Share your goals or actions with someone who will support and reinforce your commitment. When someone else is aware of what you are trying to achieve, it adds social pressure to follow through. The combination of internal determination and external accountability creates a strong system for confronting and overcoming limiting belief. You are less likely to surrender to negative thoughts when others witness your commitment. Another strategy is journaling. Write down the thoughts that appear and dissect them on paper. Ask yourself if they are accurate, what evidence supports or contradicts them, and what actions you can take to move forward. Journaling transforms vague fears into structured insights and helps you see patterns you might not notice otherwise. It externalizes the problem, giving you clarity and control.
The act of putting thought into words also reduces its unconscious grip on your behavior. Persistence is key. Limiting thoughts will appear repeatedly, sometimes in new forms. You will not eliminate them instantly. Your progress is proportional to the number of times you confront and act despite them. Each confrontation weakens the power of the thought and strengthens your discipline. This is how mental resilience is built, through repeated challenges and consistent action. Physical action is often the fastest way to break mental barriers. Thoughts hold power because the body responds with tension, hesitation, or inaction. Movement disrupts this pattern. Standing up, taking a step, typing a word, making a call. These physical acts create momentum that the mind cannot resist. Action is both proof and reinforcement. It tells the brain, I am in control. My thoughts do not define me. Challenging thoughts also teaches you patience and strategic thinking. Some thoughts persist because they stem from deep fears or ingrained beliefs. You may not conquer them in one attempt, but every small confrontation adds experience, confidence, and insight. Over time, you learn which thoughts are truly valid and which are illusions of fear. You become more selective in what you accept and more deliberate in your choices. This selective approach strengthens both decision-making and discipline. It is vital to remember that thoughts are not enemies. They provide information about what matters to you. Resistance shows you where growth opportunities exist. By challenging your thoughts, you are not erasing them. You are testing their accuracy and controlling their influence. This mindset turns mental barriers into stepping stones. You learn to see challenges as signals for action, rather than reasons for avoidance. Social influence also shapes thoughts. Many limiting beliefs are internalized from family, peers, or society. Challenging thoughts often requires separating yourself from external expectations and assumptions. You must identify which beliefs are yours and which have been adopted unconsciously. Once you distinguish between the two, you can choose which thoughts deserve attention and which deserve action in opposition. Tracking your wins is essential. Record moments when you acted despite negative thoughts, fear, or doubt. Reflect on how those actions changed the outcome. These records serve as tangible proof that your limiting thoughts are not accurate predictors of success. Reviewing this evidence regularly reinforces your courage and encourages further action. Momentum grows not just from the present effort, but from the accumulation of past victories. Finally, challenging thoughts creates freedom. Once you develop the habit of questioning and acting despite your doubts, you become less reactive to fear, hesitation, or self-criticism. Your mind begins to trust itself because action replaces uncertainty. Your emotions follow suit, aligning with your decisions rather than dictating. Your life transforms because your potential is no longer limited by imagined obstacles. The power that once seemed external now resides firmly within you. Growth comes from confronting the invisible chains in your mind. Every thought that tries to hold you back is an opportunity to strengthen your resolve. Every challenge faced and action taken despite doubt reinforces your discipline. Every day spent practicing this principle compounds into a stronger, more capable, and unstoppable version of yourself. You are not defined by the thoughts you have but by the choices you make when those thoughts appear. By challenging the ideas that limit you, you claim control, direction, and power over your own life.
Chapter 9. Build control by guiding your actions, not your feelings. Most people live at the mercy of their feelings. They wake up and check how they feel before deciding what to do. They wait for motivation, energy, or inspiration to strike before starting a task. They eat when hungry, sleep when tired, and postpone responsibilities when emotions are inconvenient. The problem with this approach is that feelings are unpredictable, unreliable, and often fleeting. If you allow your emotions to dictate your actions, you surrender control over your life. Discipline, progress, and personal growth do not come from following feelings. They come from choosing actions deliberately, consistently, and independently of mood. True control begins the moment you decide to guide your actions instead of reacting to your emotions. You recognize that feelings will fluctuate, but your commitments remain fixed. You act because your values, goals, and identity dictate your behavior, not because you feel like it in the moment. This distinction is crucial because emotions are not commands, they are signals. They tell you how you are reacting internally, but they do not determine the path you must take. By separating action from emotion, you reclaim authority over your life. The first step is awareness. Notice when your actions are being driven by feelings rather than intentional choices. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I want the outcome, or because I feel like it right now? Am I skipping a task because I am tired, or because it is inconvenient? Am I procrastinating because I lack energy or because I am avoiding responsibility? Awareness is the foundation for control because you cannot correct what you do not see. Once you observe the pattern, you can make deliberate changes. Next, set clear intentions. Define exactly what actions you will take, regardless of how you feel. Decide when you will work, exercise, study, or complete responsibilities. Assign precise time frames, locations, and methods for these actions. The more specific you are, the less room your feelings have to interfere. Intention acts as a bridge between planning and execution. When the plan is clear, action becomes a decision rather than a negotiation with fluctuating moods. Consistency is the cornerstone of mastering this principle. Each time you act according to intention rather than feeling, you reinforce your ability to control your behavior. The first few attempts may feel uncomfortable. Your mind may resist because it is used to making decisions based on mood. You may feel tension, frustration, or doubt. That is normal. Each act of choosing commitment over emotion strengthens your neural pathways for discipline. Repetition transforms deliberate effort into habit, and habit reduces the power of feelings over time. Building routines is another powerful tool. When actions are scheduled and habitual, you reduce the influence of feelings entirely. Habits automate behavior so that your body and mind perform essential tasks regardless of motivation. This is why successful people rarely rely on mood to get things done. They have structured routines that make progress inevitable. Habits are not restrictive. They are liberating because they free you from the tyranny of fluctuating emotions. You also need strategies for moments of high emotional resistance. When feelings are strong, they can feel overwhelming. This is when small incremental actions become crucial. Even one push-up, one paragraph, or one step toward a goal is enough to break inertia. Action creates momentum that gradually overrides the emotional resistance. Feelings are fleeting, but action builds permanence. By starting small, you bypass the mental barrier that often accompanies strong emotions, and you reinforce the habit of doing despite discomfort. Self-talk is essential in guiding actions over feelings. Your inner dialogue shapes the narrative that drives behavior. Replace phrases like, "I don't feel like it," or "I'm too tired" with statements like, "I will do this because it matters," or "I act according to my values." These statements remind you that action is non-negotiable and that feelings are temporary. Consistent use of empowering self-talk reinforces your control over your behavior, even in moments of emotional turbulence. Understanding the cost of following feelings is critical. Every time you delay or avoid action because of emotion, you lose momentum, confidence, and opportunity. The mind begins to equate avoidance with relief, and avoidance gradually becomes the default. Over time, this erodes self-trust. You start doubting your ability to follow through. Your self-discipline weakens, and your goals move further out of reach. Recognizing the high cost of yielding to feelings is motivation in itself to prioritize action over mood. Emotional regulation is complementary but not the same as control. You do not need to eliminate or suppress feelings. You need to prevent them from dictating your behavior. Acknowledge your emotions without letting them veto your choices. Feelings will always arise: fear, doubt, fatigue, frustration, but they do not have to halt progress. When you act in alignment with purpose despite emotion, you are training both mind and body to respond to reason and commitment, not transient impulses. Decision-making improves when actions are guided by principles instead of feelings. Emotions are often reactive, impulsive, and short-sighted. Acting from feelings leads to inconsistency and regret. Acting from principles, values, goals, standards leads to reliability and predictability in your life. You begin to trust yourself because your behavior is consistent, regardless of circumstance or mood. This internal trust forms the backbone of all self-discipline. Another practical approach is to anchor action in identity. Decide who you want to be, and let that identity guide your behavior. If you see yourself as a disciplined person, you act in alignment with that identity even when feelings resist. Identity provides a stronger motivation than mood, because it is constant and self-reinforcing. Actions then become an expression of who you are, not a negotiation with how you feel. Over time, identity-driven action creates momentum that feels effortless compared to relying on temporary emotions. Accountability amplifies control. When others know your commitments, your sense of responsibility increases. Peer pressure is often seen as negative, but in the right context, it reinforces deliberate action. Sharing intentions and reporting progress keeps you aligned with decisions rather than feeling. The combination of internal focus and external accountability creates a feedback loop that strengthens discipline, reduces procrastination, and ensures that actions are guided by purpose rather than mood. Reflection reinforces learning. At the end of each day, review your actions and note when you acted according to your intentions versus when feelings dictated behavior. Analyze the triggers, the results, and the adjustments needed. Reflection transforms experience into insight. The more you consciously examine your patterns, the more refined your ability to act despite emotion becomes. Reflection also strengthens self-awareness, a crucial skill for mastering behavior. Planning ahead reduces reliance on feeling. When you anticipate potential emotional hurdles and schedule your responses, you remove uncertainty. Preparing tasks, organizing time, and pre-deciding strategies minimizes the influence of fatigue, doubt, or distraction. Emotional energy is limited, and planning allows you to reserve it for decision-making aligned with values, not for fighting internal battles that could have been avoided. Rewarding consistent action reinforces the behavior. Positive reinforcement strengthens neural pathways, making it easier to continue acting independently of mood. Celebrate moments when you act despite resistance. Recognition does not need to be extravagant. Acknowledgement is enough to signal your brain that deliberate action produces satisfaction. Over time, this reinforcement converts conscious effort into automatic control. Challenging comfort is necessary. Feelings of ease often disguise stagnation. Comfort tempts you to postpone action, delay growth, or avoid effort. When you learn to act despite comfort, you strengthen discipline and expand capability. Every deliberate choice made against ease builds resilience. The more often you choose action over feeling, the less power emotions have to sway your behavior. Consistency across different areas of life compounds control. Whether in work, relationships, health, or personal growth, guiding actions instead of feelings creates a ripple effect.
Small victories in one area reinforce confidence and competence in others. Discipline becomes a universal skill, not confined to isolated tasks. The more you practice, the more automatic and comprehensive the behavior becomes. Finally, the practice of guiding action over feeling transforms your life fundamentally. You develop self-mastery, independence, and a sense of reliability. You no longer drift through days waiting for motivation. You no longer surrender to emotional impulses. You choose your path, act consistently, and build momentum toward your goal. Control becomes a habit, discipline becomes identity, and progress becomes inevitable. Acting according to values rather than feelings is not easy, but it is the defining skill of anyone who achieves mastery over themselves and their life.
Chapter 10. Stay disciplined by choosing long-term growth over short comfort. Discipline is built in the moments when you choose growth over comfort. Every day presents opportunities to take the easier path, to indulge in temporary pleasure, to avoid effort, and to postpone responsibility. These moments are small, almost invisible, yet they shape the trajectory of your life. Giving in to comfort feels good immediately, but it slowly erodes your potential, self-respect, and confidence. Growth, on the other hand, is uncomfortable at first. It requires patience, effort, and persistence. It asks you to prioritize long-term benefit over fleeting satisfaction. Choosing growth over comfort is the defining action of disciplined people because it separates those who drift from those who succeed. The first step in choosing long-term growth is awareness. You have to notice the moments when comfort tempts you. These moments are everywhere. Scrolling endlessly on your phone instead of working on a goal, eating what is easy instead of what nourishes you, choosing sleep over exercise, avoiding conversations that improve your skills, or delaying a task because it feels inconvenient. These are the crossroads where discipline is tested. Each choice matters. Every decision to favor growth builds strength, character, and resilience. Every choice to favor comfort weakens resolve and reinforces dependency on ease. To make growth your default choice, you need a clear vision of what long-term success looks like. Discipline is difficult to maintain when the payoff is invisible. When you can see where your actions are leading, your health, career, relationships, or personal development, you create motivation that goes beyond immediate feeling. Vision transforms discomfort into direction. It allows you to endure temporary challenges because you know they are shaping something greater. The clearer your vision, the easier it becomes to accept short-term struggle for long-term benefit. Planning is essential. When you know what growth requires, you can prepare in advance to overcome the lure of comfort, create routines, set goals, and organize tasks so that each day builds toward your vision. Planning reduces reliance on willpower alone because it creates a path forward. The more structured your plan, the less mental energy you waste negotiating with yourself in moments of temptation. Preparation is an act of discipline because it strengthens your ability to choose growth before emotions interfere. Self-discipline grows through repeated practice. Every time you resist comfort and choose growth, you train your mind and body to act in alignment with your long-term goals. The first few attempts are difficult. You feel resistance, impatience, and frustration. Your brain protests because it craves immediate satisfaction. But each act of persistence weakens the mental pull of comfort and reinforces your capacity for effort. Over time, the repeated choice of growth becomes automatic. The discomfort that once seemed unbearable becomes manageable. Action replaces hesitation. Understanding the true cost of comfort is critical. Giving in to short-term ease doesn't just delay results, it creates patterns that define your life. Every skipped workout, every postponed task, every indulgence without purpose adds up. The brain remembers patterns, and repeated indulgence trains it to prioritize ease over effort. Conversely, choosing growth rewires your habits, strengthens your self-control, and increases confidence. Discipline is built in the tension between short-term temptation and long-term reward. Ignoring this tension guarantees that comfort will shape your behavior, whether you want it to or not. Emotional regulation is a key component of long-term growth. Discomfort often triggers feelings of frustration, boredom, or anxiety. Many people mistake these emotions as signs to stop or give up. Instead, see them as signals that growth is occurring. Emotion is information, not instruction. Learning to act despite unpleasant feelings is the essence of discipline. Each time you endure temporary discomfort for future benefit, you reinforce the neural pathways that make persistence easier next time. Emotional control and long-term thinking work hand in hand. A practical approach to choosing growth over comfort is to break big goals into small, actionable steps. Large challenges can feel overwhelming and make comfort more appealing. By dividing growth into manageable portions, you create achievable milestones that provide immediate satisfaction without compromising long-term vision. Completing small steps reinforces confidence and momentum, making it easier to continue despite discomfort. Growth then becomes a series of deliberate actions rather than an abstract concept that feels too distant to pursue. When others are aware of your commitments or when you publicly declare your intentions, the social and psychological pressure helps you resist comfort. You become less likely to avoid effort when there are expectations, both internal and external, attached to your growth. Accountability transforms abstract goals into concrete obligations. It strengthens self-discipline because it creates a system of reinforcement that extends beyond individual willpower. Reflection enhances the practice of prioritizing growth. Each day, review your decisions. When did you choose growth? When did you give in to comfort, and why? Understanding patterns allows you to anticipate moments of weakness and strengthen strategies for resisting them. Reflection is not judgment, it is a method for improvement. By analyzing behavior and outcomes, you refine your approach to long-term decision-making, creating consistency in growth-focused actions. Delayed gratification is central to this principle. Many people fail at discipline because they seek immediate reward. Long-term growth requires patience and faith in the process. You must learn to value the future more than the present. Each choice to delay ease strengthens mental endurance, cultivates resilience, and builds self-respect. The ability to sacrifice comfort today for a better tomorrow is what separates average performance from extraordinary achievement. Environment plays a significant role. If your surroundings encourage comfort, resisting it becomes far more difficult. Remove distractions, create systems that support growth, and position yourself in environments that demand action rather than ease. Surrounding yourself with individuals who prioritize improvement reinforces your commitment. Environment and habits interact, and shaping your environment consciously strengthens your ability to choose long-term benefit over immediate pleasure. Motivation alone is insufficient. Waiting to feel like doing something is a trap that comfort exploits. Discipline comes from acting, despite temporary reluctance. You don't need to feel like pursuing growth to do it. You need to act consistently, intentionally, and without negotiation. Motivation fluctuates. Commitment must remain steady. By consistently choosing growth, you build a pattern of success that becomes self-sustaining. Each act reinforces your identity as someone who values progress over comfort. Identity alignment is crucial. Decide the person you want to become, and let that identity guide your daily choices. When growth aligns with who you see yourself as, actions become more natural. You act not out of obligation, but because your behavior matches your self-concept. Each choice to endure discomfort reinforces identity,
and each reinforcement makes future decisions easier. Identity-driven behavior creates internal momentum that reduces the struggle against temporary feelings of ease. Long-term focus also builds resilience. Life is unpredictable, and challenges are inevitable. Comfort-driven decisions may provide temporary relief, but leave you unprepared for difficulty. Growth-driven actions equip you with skill, endurance, and adaptability. Each time you endure effort for future benefit, you increase your capacity to handle obstacles. Over time, this resilience compounds, making you more capable, confident, and less swayed by immediate convenience. Celebrating progress without compromising principles is important. Recognize achievements that result from sustained effort and adherence to long-term goals. These celebrations reinforce the value of growth over comfort. They create positive emotional feedback that encourages continued discipline. Rewarding progress strategically strengthens habits without undermining the principle of prioritizing future benefit over present ease. Consistency is the key to compounding results. Long-term growth is not built in single heroic actions, but through repeated daily choices. Each small act of discipline compounds with previous efforts, creating exponential improvement over time. Short-term comfort may feel satisfying in the moment, but it does not compound in the same way. Growth requires patience, repetition, and dedication. Choosing long-term benefit consistently is what turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Finally, prioritizing growth over comfort transforms life fundamentally. It builds character, confidence, and self-respect. It teaches resilience, patience, and focus. It strengthens identity and aligns actions with goals. The practice of choosing effort, learning, and growth over temporary ease ensures that you are in control of your life rather than a passive observer. Every choice to endure discomfort in pursuit of long-term gain reinforces discipline, shapes behavior, and guarantees progress. Those who master this principle discover a life of purpose, achievement, and fulfillment. By consistently valuing growth over comfort, you develop the self-mastery necessary to create the life you truly desire.